check in with Larry Senneback, who is our media guru, our tech guru, with First Rule. Good morning, Larry.
Hey, good morning, McGraw. How are you?
Good. What do you got for us today?
Well, a couple weeks ago, we had E3. I think we mentioned it last segment I was on, but I wanted to talk about it. That's the Entertainment Electronics Expo. It's basically the Oscars for video games. It's where new video games are announced. And, it's one of those things, like, on a lot of the radio shows like this, you'll have people come on and talk about movies.
Right.
And the movie industry is a big deal.
Right.
But, in reality, in modern times, the video game industry dwarfs the movie industry.
Yes.
Currently, actually in 2017, the video game industry made $108.9 billion, while the movie industry made about 35.
Yes.
So it's gone to about a little over three times the size.
But it's still the ugly duckling.
It's funny. It's changed a little bit though. When I grew up in the 80s and 90s, it was kind of the geeks realm. That you go back and you play Mario in the corner. But nowadays the average age of video gamers is 36 years old, and it's rising. And it's not just a boys' club anymore. They show that 52% of video gamers are men, but 48% are women. It's really an interesting kind of dynamic. So basically in the video, so there's been a lot of games were announced, new things to look forward to. Some of the ones I figured that worth pointing out were there's a new Fallout game. If there's any gamers out there, there's a universe called Fallout that makes some of the more popular games out there. It started in 1997.
Right.
It's like a post-apocalyptic story in which there was a nuclear war, but a lot of humans survived in these vaults that then let open, and then humans get to explore the post-apocalyptic world, and it's told from different places. This new one's going to be in West Virginia.
Is this the video game?
Yes, this is what the video game looks like. It's amazing how good the graphics have gotten nowadays.
It's like HD.
Oh, it's incredible, and it's going to be running 4K and everything else. What I think is always fascinating about these Fallout games is they're told as though if the 1950s kind of outlook on America, with all the stars and the stripes and the World War II stuff, like if that continued on and was the future. And what's interesting is they always bring period music, whether that's like the ink spots from the 40s or stuff to it. And this time they're actually bringing in some John Denver with West, because it's set in West Virginia, country home, bring it home. And so what's fascinating is come November, you're going to see 10 and 11-year-olds singing John Denver.
How do you play? Do you play this on a game system, or do you play it on your computer?
It is actually released on all the game systems and the computer. So it can be, you can play it on your Xbox, your PlayStation,
or your laptop,
or your
TV,
laptop,
or whatever.
Exactly, and it's a lot of fun. Nintendo also released the new Super Smash Brothers, which is a big game of theirs, where basically they have all of their characters: Mario, Luigi, Link, Zelda, fighting. It's a brawling game, like a Street Fighter game.
You're telling me Mario Brothers can't even get along today?
Well, no, not
outrageous.
I think the most outrageous thing I saw though at E3 was there was a lot of virtual reality and augmented reality, as we talked about before. But this is probably the neatest thing. It was a ping pong paddle that gave force feedback like you were hitting a ping pong ball, and it allowed you to look like you were actually playing ping pong in front of you through a visor.
Right.
And you could sit there, and it was literally a person playing ping pong back and forth, seeing the ball.
You were hitting the ball back and forth between each paddle on each hand.
And you could even play it against a wall, and it would bounce back to you automatically, so you could play ping pong anywhere.
And the paddle you were using in virtual reality would make it look and feel like you were hitting the ping pong.
Exactly. And if you think about it, when a ping pong ball hits a ping pong paddle, you don't need a lot of force feedback to make your brain believe that if you see it.
Yeah.
And so it's absolutely fascinating. It's kind of one of those fun things that I'm looking forward to.
Wow. Back to that game for a second. Do you need a joystick or something, or do you need
It depends. I mean, if you're on an Xbox or a PlayStation or something like that, you've of course got joysticks on your controllers. But if you're on PC, you can use the keyboard and mouse just like normal. It's going to be a real big one out this November.
All right. Anything else?
Other than that, the new SD cards are coming. I guess that's kind of a boring thing to say for your camera and everything else, but they're going to be up to 128 terabytes, which, to put in perspective, that's about 32 times bigger than the current hard drive sizes you can get in your computer. So these are going to be massive in the size of your thumbnail.
And so you'll be able to take 8 billion pictures on one card.
Exactly. So it'd be kind of ridiculous, but they're looking more at like automation, like cameras in cars that drive themselves, things like that.
Right. The new SD card, 128 terabytes.
Unbelievable.
The very first floppy disk.
Okay. Yep.
How much storage did that have?
Well, the hard floppies that people are more used to were 1.44 megabytes. So to put that in perspective, that's Well, these new 128 terabyte things are going to be trillions of bytes, and that was a million bytes. Factors a million.
How many songs could have been held on a floppy disk that was the hard disk?
With modern quality, about a third of one song.
A third of one song could have been held on one of those hard floppy disks.
And now you're talking millions on this thing that's the size of your thumbnail.
And I've got 1,000 songs on my phone right now.
Isn't that crazy?
Larry, good stuff. Thanks for coming in.
Good seeing you, buddy.
7:56, big